and I'm excited about it. So before we do any of the chalk talk, let's get into some important information here, Tim. Rob Domofsky had tweeted out yesterday, Lukas Van Ness with the foot injury was in a walking boot today. Obviously, this was yesterday. This after he tried to return on November 23rd following 5 weeks out, but lasted just 6 snaps versus Minnesota and then was out again last week at Detroit. Here's what LVN said today about the situation. Quote, "It just wasn't exactly where I wanted to be. Was hoping to get back on the field and return to play. Played a limited amount of snaps, and it didn't feel quite right yet. So just back on the rehab plan and hoping I could turn the corner shortly. But until then, just rehab, work with the training staff and coaches, and hope I can get healthy soon." And when you read that comment, Rob's tweet there, Tim, no shade toward Rob, but it kind of sounds like, oh no, he got hurt and he just left the game and that was it. He actually came back in the fourth quarter and tried to give it a go again. So I don't think this was a setback by no stretch of the imagination. Went out and tested it, not where you want it to be. So let's take a step back and let that thing fully heal is what it sounds like, man. Anything you want to add here to the LVN talks? I think it's going to be huge getting him back. I think he's like a 72 or a 74, according to PFF, having his best year to date.
Yeah, I agree. Taking a step back, it's not a setback. You know, we need LVN, and you talk about how he's grading out this year, really good against the run when he's been available. So, take all the time you need. Hopefully, we have him down the stretch, to close this season out. But, going up against the Bears this week, you're worried about that running attack, and you need all hands on deck with, Devontae Wyatt being done for the year. So hopefully LVN's back sooner than later for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. I hope he is. Again, get him to 100%, get him back out there. I think he's going to play a huge role in this defense, like you said, with Devontae Wyatt being out. However, the Packers are getting a little bit of good news coming out of 1265. As Rob tweeted out yesterday, the Packers actually, I think he meant designated 3 players to return to practice: Brenton Cox Jr., Marshawn Lloyd, and Colin Oliver. All right. And then he goes on to say there could be some help on the way for the Packers defensive line. They did. Okay. So he just quote tweeted that about Brenton Cox Jr. So there's actually 3 players coming back. Tim, this could be huge. And again, they're opening the practice window. It doesn't mean they're going to play this week, obviously, but much like Jaden Reed, who we hope gets on the field this week, they're just kind of ramping these guys back up. So we may finally get to see Colin Oliver. If you guys remember, Marshawn Lloyd in the preseason had that 33-yard wheel route. He was looking good before he got hurt again. And, of course, Tim, Brenton Cox Jr. last year, man, I thought he took a huge step. It sucks that he got hurt this year and has had to kind of sit on the sideline. Of course, it does give Baron Sorrell some meaningful snaps, but I do think this defense would be much better with Brenton Cox Jr. rotating in as edge defender.
I agree 100%, man. I'm glad that Brenton Cox Jr. is going to be working his way back here. It's been a while since we've seen him, play some football for us, and we need it. This D is banged up, and, whether it's the pass rush or against the run, man, having Brenton Cox Jr. on the field is a good sign. And then Colin Oliver working back. We've been waiting since preseason to see him on the field. So all signs are pointing to, the right direction for this defense as they, take one step forward, one step back with injuries. It's nice to get some guys back in the fold. And, yeah, what can you say about Marshawn Lloyd, man, on the offensive side of the ball? Josh Jacobs is still banged up. That knee is not 100%. He's grinding through it. Emmanuel Wilson's been playing great football for us. Chris Brooks, great football for us. But, man, you love to get the kid from USC back into the fold right now because he's a dynamic back, and we're going to need it. We're going to need it going forward because you never know who's going to go down in the next few weeks as you make the playoff push. So getting guys back in the mix right about now is great timing, in my opinion.
And as the weather continues to turn, obviously in Green Bay and having to play in Chicago, I think they flexed that game here in a few weeks to a 7:15 Central kickoff. So that's going to be an even colder game. You're going to have to lean on the run a little bit more than maybe you would have in the past. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that stable of backs is utilized and who steps up, because I've been happy with them. I'm happy with Josh Jacobs when he's healthy. Emmanuel Wilson, I think, has played outside of his mind. Absolutely awesome performance from him. Chris Brooks, pleasant surprise. He's not going to do anything world breaking, but he's going to pick up his pass protection. protection. He's going to be able to run the football effectively in a sense of taking what the defense is giving him, not doing anything too flashy. He can also catch the ball out of the backfield as well. As Chuck Jagger says here in the chat, back to LVN, we need LVN. That's what Coach Lynn said. And he also said, should have put him on IR. Tim, that is something that I've noticed over the last few years. It seems like the Packers kind of swing and miss on some of those. Like, if you don't need the roster spot, why not just keep them active? And the reason being is because other teams are game planning against it too. Like, is he going to play this week? Is he going to play this week? Right? Not that LVN is like an absolute game breaker at this point in his career, but I think that has a little bit to do with it. But I agree with Coach. It's like, man, it seems if they are truly thinking they're going to come back and they don't make it back, we seem to have been swinging and missing a little bit on the timing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think with a guy like LVN, you might be a little hesitant because you think he can work his way through it, and maybe they thought he'd be back and ready to go sooner than hindsight's 2020, right? Obviously, he's still dealing with the foot, but if you send him to IR, you know he's out, and he's off the board. So, like you said, it's a little bit of gamesmanship, but it's tough to try and time that because, you got to trust your training staff and, the medical professionals, and then also the player, based on, how the player's rehabbing and how the player's responding to treatment and saying that he's feeling good or not. Like you said, LVN was in and out, back into the game, tried to make it a go. It's just one of those tough situations. It's hard to really predict how a guy's going to, work through an injury like that. But, Coach Len makes a great point. Hindsight being 2020, we probably could have sent them to IR for sure.
Yeah. Nick McSwain asked in the chat, any news on Jaden Reed? I have not heard anything specifically, but I kind of get the feeling he's coming back this week, Tim. Now, I thought he would come back on Thanksgiving, and they kept him inactive. I can't help but wonder if Matt LaFleur looked at that game and said, you know what? I think we can win this without him. Let's showcase Wicks.
Yeah.
And they just went out there and balled out. So
probably because Reed came into the building was like,
I'm not gonna lie, I was faded. I ain't gonna lie, I was faded. Like,
by the way, the beans, greens, tomatoes, all that. Oh my God. Y'all have not seen that soundbite of Jaden Reed pumping his guys up on the sideline on Thanksgiving. It was absolutely awesome, man. Make sure you go check that out. I think Packers tweeted that out. But I think he'll play this week, Nick. I thought he would play last week. I feel really confident he's going to play this week. If he doesn't play this week, then all bets are off. It may be 2 or 3 weeks on down the road, it seems like. I feel like he should be ready to roll. And I know people were excited. Like Coach Lynn says, I'm excited to add some juice to this run game with Lloyd. Completely agree. Chris asks, is Lloyd suiting up for the Bears game? I doubt it. I don't think there's any chance of that. I think they want to ramp him up like they do Jaden Reed, give him a couple of weeks. I would think we're probably at least 1 to 3 weeks out on Marshawn Lloyd. I don't have any inside information, just kind of guesstimating there based off of what's happening in the past. Doug in the chat says, Coach, so agree. Wilson and Brooks are playing really well. Lloyd is special. There is something about Lloyd that I've seen on tape too that just when he's out there, and it's been minimal, but he does look a little twitchier, Tim. He looks a little different.
Absolutely, man. I loved what we saw on tape at USC from him, and then the little bit of glimpses that we caught preseason, regular season last year. But yeah, availability is everything, right? And whether it's 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, if we can get him back, like I said, for this playoff push, that'd be great. Just for some depth there on offense, because he's dynamic in the passing attack too. He's not just an up and down runner. Really fun to watch. So again, all hands on deck, man. You gotta love getting key players back just when you need them the most. It seems like down the stretch.
Yeah, Kyle Andretti in the chat says, you see Carl Brooks or Quay Walker coming back this week, maybe both. If you're asking, do I see that? I think Quay, there's a good chance he'll be back. Carl Brooks, I don't know. I haven't heard anything on Carl Brooks. So I don't know if it's going to be a little bit longer on him or not. I wouldn't be surprised if Quay comes back, which leads into the next question. J Dome, I think this is a great question. If Quay looks rusty, do we play McDuffie more? He's been solid. I don't think it'll be something like, oh no, Quay looks rusty, let's hold him out. I think they'll ease him back into the snap count. I think you'll probably have he and McDuffie kind of rotating in and out. And then if they see, which is kind of what J-Dome's saying, if they see, okay, yeah, Quay's a little bit off tilt here, let's just lean on McDuffie. McDuffie's now grading out as the 7th best linebacker in the NFL right now, according to PFF. He's been playing really, really good football.
I agree. 2 green dots, right? And, one thing I noticed with Quay, he was rehabbing during training camp this season, dealing with the ankle cleanup or something that was keeping him off the field. I believe it was the ankle surgery. And he's fully engaged, even if he's not practicing, even if he's not able to go out there and run, he's fully engaged with those groups. He knows what's going on with the calls, what's happening on the field. I would think any rust that Quay may or may not have out there, if in fact he does get peppered back into the mix, I think it would be minimal. And you're talking about a snap or two, he's going to get his game legs under him and be ready to go. But what can you say about Isaiah McDuffie, man? I mean, you need your guys to step up when you have injuries, and every team deals with them. And Isaiah McDuffie has been playing out of his mind, lights out football. Really, even before Quay went down, we saw a lot of quality play from Isaiah McDuffie. So I think that's the game plan. I would agree with you, Clay, is that you go with Isaiah McDuffie and you start, keeping Quay on a snap count and seeing how he handles gameplay. Because stingers are tricky, man. He could go out there for one play and get hit funny and be right back on the sideline. So only time will tell with Quay Walker.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, if you guys are watching this video back later, let us know what you think in the comments. How do you feel about LVN's injury? Do you think it's going to be something that might nag him the rest of the season? Do you think he's right on the cusp of returning at 100%? And also, what do you think of the three players looking to return to the lineup there with Brenton Cox Jr. and Marshawn Lloyd specifically mentioned? And obviously, Colin Oliver, a prospect that we were over the moon about when we broke down his tape as soon as he was drafted by the Green Bay Packers. Let us know in the comments what you think, and make sure you hit like, subscribe, click that bell icon so you're notified when we go live here in the future. Tim, let's do it, man. Let's jump into some chalk talk. You ready for this, sir?
Ready to go, baby. Let's go.